Hello everyone and welcome to the AOR Talkshow, but this is a special version. This is obviously the RX special edition of the talk show that we have announced a couple of weeks back on Twitter, and obviously, as the name says, we'll be taking care of the RX leagues on AOR. We're on the second season, and alongside me there's a new face. It's Matt212.
Hello, yes, guys. I'm looking forward to talking about the AOR RallyCross leagues. They're brilliant fun on AOR. I would highly recommend signing up to them if you have DiRT for. There's a lot of brilliant racing, all nicely over a short space of evening, over just one night of your week as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, indeed. And pretty much like last season, the calendar pretty much stays the same, with the season starting in Portugal, in Montalegre. Also, good to inform you that if you're watching this on the official highlights in FISI's channel, that's fine. But if you're watching this on my channel or Matt's, which is purely the talk show, make sure you check out the official highlights to see all the coverage of the three platforms. We also have live streams for the races on Xbox and PS4. Xbox with Matt212, who is with me today, and Dan on the PS4 side of things. But before we kick it off, Matt, what can you tell us about this track?
So Montalegre is actually quite an interesting and unique circuit when it comes to the AOR World Rallycross calendar. It's actually quite a sandy-based circuit relative to a lot of the other tracks, and it's got a very tight first corner. The Joker lap is about 4 seconds worth of time, but there's a lot where it is quite a loose surface-based circuit. There is quite a lot of different lines drivers can take, a lot of overtaking opportunities. One of the circuits that it sort of is quite like sort of street circuit-esque, if you will. There's not a lot of extra room around the circuit, if you will. A lot of tyre walls and very big curbs that can catch you out. But brilliant for close side-by-side racing, and actually a lot of chances for overtaking on what is really one of the lower speed circuits on the calendar.
But just before we get into all the action, one final thing, obviously, for the newbies, including me. I have Matt here to help us out to understand how the format of the whole series works.
Yeah, so the format to the series is sort of fairly complicated, but also fairly simplistic if you look at it. Basically, all the drivers will take part in 2 heats. The first heat, they will obviously just be put in a random order. The heats, consist of 4 drivers, so they will be put in a random order in one of the heats. So if you've got, say, 16 drivers, they will be put into 4 heats. Now, the drivers from the first race then are ordered with their time at the end of the race, and then the top 4 times from the first heat will all go into a heat with each other during the second phase. Then obviously 5th to 8th will go in one, and then 9th to 12th and 13th to 16th. Now, the drivers are also awarded points for where they do finish relative to everyone else in their heats. Now, obviously, this is based on their times once more, and the top 12 after the 2 heats, the top 12 move through into the semi-finals. They're obviously the guys that have scored the most points. So even if you have a really bad first heat, if you have a really good time in your second heat, then it can really boost you back up the leaderboard. Now, obviously, the top 12, as I said, do move into the semi-finals. Now, the aim then, once you get into the semi-finals, is just to try and get the top 3. The semi-finals are split into lobbies of 6. So the aim then is to just try and get into the top 3, and that will leave you with, obviously, 6 drivers, 2 from each semi-finals, into the finals, and obviously that is where they are given the final points. Points are awarded then, obviously the full point system is then awarded to the drivers there from the top 6, and then obviously they'll get 50 points for winning, and then obviously it goes down 45, 42, 40, 39, 38, etc, etc.
After all, it sounds complicated but easy at the same time, as you said. So, without further ado, let's get this action underway with Xbox One first.
So the Xbox side of things then, in the first week of the series, was a very interesting shuffle. The reigning champion opted to leave the league, which meant that, sort of a level playing field for a lot of the other drivers. EP3 Murphy, as you would have seen there, able to take, not, I wouldn't say a shock win, but quite a surprise win based on his Season 1. You know, he's really been able to up the ante, moving on into Season 2. Two of his big rivals that you would have seen prominently in the lead of Season 1 were GSY Davey and RC Extreme. Those two now as teammates for Season 2 were looking very, very strong there. GSY Davey able to come through in P2 there, and unfortunately RC Extreme having a little bit worse of a race there. You know, he personally always aims for podiums, but was only able to come through in P4 from week 1. One of the new guys at that W, actually, very, very new to the series. They're able to get P3 in the first race worth of action. You know, he's been able to bring something a little bit extra to the new season, and his teammate Shootmaster, who some of you will have seen last season, able to get through in P5 there as well. Infinity, unfortunately, having a couple of lag issues here and there, had to retire from the finals race and ended up coming through in P6 there. But it was very, very interesting, you know, sort of a bit of a reshuffle when it came to the calendar. Obviously, EP3 Murphy unable to make next week's race at Lydden Hill there, so obviously he really needed to try and get all the points he possibly could in week 1 there. GSY Davey seems to have upped his pace just a little bit as well, moving on into the second season there. He's looking a little bit quicker than RC Extreme, his teammate here. And you know, those two in Season 1 were so close, but it usually seemed that RC Extreme would just about get ahead of him there. That W and Shootmaster there also looking very, very strong. Like, they've upped the ante moving on into Season 2. They were always sort of just about able to get through into the finals. You know, if the racing went their way, then they'd make it through. If it didn't, then they wouldn't. So quite interesting to see, you know, those two making it quite comfortably into the finals in week 1 of the series there. And Infinity, unfortunately, just a little bit further back there after having connection issues there, still solidly getting through into the finals.
Yeah, it was indeed quite a good start in terms of action, I would say, for Xbox One. But now it's time to take a look to our second platform, and that is PS4. Right, so on the PS4 side of things, we had still the reigning champion Jamie, compared to Xbox, who didn't have a reigning champion. But it didn't start as favourite for the weekend, as Demon managed to win the first heat in front of the Welshman. And also very strong performance from Catfish onwards after a disastrous first heat. But on the semi-finals, it was a showdown between Catfish and Demon, while Jamie was on the other one, facing Alex, probably the top 4 favourites realistically for this year's championship. But it would all come out in the final, where we would see maybe a not so good strategy, or maybe it was just a bad start. There was a few laggy incidents in terms of connections, but that was mainly seen on the heats. On the semi-finals and finals, as usual, I guess, we saw a lot of people taking their Joker on the first laps, but Jamie eventually taking a different approach and winning the final by taking the Joker on the final laps of the event, and then taking the win at Portugal, which is a fair win. Realistically, it was a bit of a disappointment for Demon as well, who was looking like a very strong contender for the win. Then it was Catfish finishing behind the reigning champion Jamie, and Alex in 4th, with decent races also for Limpu and Tybotech, who got into the final with secure performances, but not outstanding. Let's just say that. But that was what happened on PS4, and now it's time to take a final look at what happened on the PC.
Season 1's champion Race Fanatic has decided, just like X Shuffled from the Xbox side of things, that he would no longer take part in the series there. And the highest ranked driver from Season 1, who is still actually competing in the series, was Julian, was also unable to make it through to the races this week there, which actually left, you know, quite an opening for a few other drivers to try and score some good points. Richie was one of the highest ranked drivers to actually be present for the first race there. And Nightwatch was the highest ranked finisher at Montalegre in Season 1. We've got Guti, Marcy, Jess and Pottersman, 3 new drivers, and obviously the delta time around this circuit is sort of around 3 to 4 seconds. Now, the first semi-final was fairly straightforward, as you would have seen. Nightwatch and Guti Marcy were very, very, comfortable at the front. Unfortunately, Frank Rose had a few issues at the back there and was unable to make it through into the finals there. But, I think, it was sort of all fairly, sort of after the couple of laps, once everyone had taken their jokers, it was fairly plain sailing for a few of the drivers right at the very front of the race there in the first semi-final of the evening. Moving on then, though, into the second semi-final, and this was going to be quite an interesting one because we had Roadrunner, Barry Kimmy, Pottisman, Mad Dog and Jess, and unfortunately right from the very start Jess did have a few issues. They're unable to get the car started originally and then seeming to just struggle a little bit around the circuit. It was an interesting little battle, though, as we saw Roadrunner right behind Barry Kimmy there, as Pottisman was also trying to have a look through, but Barry Kimmy, having already taken his joker, was looking very, very strong. He was parked right up behind Pottisman and Roadrunner there, and it was looking for Barry Kimmy like it was going to be fairly textbook for him to try to make it through into the finals. Just keep it parked behind those two, either wait for them to have a little bit of squabble and try to nip through, or wait for them to, both take their jokers, and then obviously that will, keep him out nice and comfortably in the lead there. Barry Kimmy still was behind Pottisman, after I think got to about lap 4 or lap 5 when they finally opted to take their jokers. That left Barry Kimmy comfortably out in the lead after everyone had obviously all taken their jokers there. We had Roadrunner and Pottisman just behind him there. Mad Dog and Jess, unfortunately, unable to make it through into the finals, and that left us with a 6-car duel to try and make it, try and score as many points as they possibly could. Pottisman at the start was right behind Guti Marcy there, and we've seen Nightwatch as well was also, he was trying to hold on without taking his joker lap early on in the race. We had 4 drivers opting to take their joker right at the very start, which left the other 2, with a little bit of a breakaway there, and, if they were able to try and keep out of trouble, then, they were able to look very, very strong in the race there. And, if they could try and just build up a gap between the pair of them, then they could have led all the way through to the very end. But Barry Kimmy, once more, there was a bit of contact down at the joker on lap 1 there, and Barry Kimmy seeming to just be able to get out of all the incidents once more, able to come away, with effectively the net lead of the race, able to close up to the 2 guys that had not opted to joker lap just yet in the race there, and he was able to come through for the race victory once more.
Yeah, and overall, after reviewing all these 3 platforms, all these 3 weekends we had, maybe due to the nature of the track, we could have had surprising winners compared to what some people could be previewing, but obviously you talked that this track is very particular compared to the rest of the season. So next up will obviously be the English event at Lydden Hill, and we could see some different winners, some different contenders. What are we expecting out of Lydden Hill?
It's a very, very different track to Montalegre. The joker around Lydden Hill is probably where drivers are going to find themselves either making up or losing out on a lot of time. It's quite a high-speed circuit on the whole, and then the joker is very, very tight and technical. There's quite a horrible little chicane, to be honest with you, with very, very closed-up walls. But apart from that, a lot of the circuit is quite a gravelly / tarmac compound, so it's very, very easy to try and keep up to some good high speeds. A few little alternate lines you can take around the circuit, but a lot of the guys, it's almost like driving, say like a Formula 1 car in comparison to lines. You sort of want to be going slow in, fast out. Don't really want to try and kick out the back end as much as around some other circuits on the calendar. Lydden Hill sort of favours those that try and keep the car tidy and all in one piece.
Yeah, so it will be definitely very interesting to see, as it was Montalegre still, but this time around it will be a different kind of challenge. But that pretty much rounds this talk show episode. There's really not much else we can add. Obviously, don't forget to follow everyone involved, as myself, Matt, Dan on the PS4 side who makes the live streams. Obviously Ryan who will be commentating. He couldn't this time around. It had to be Matt, but he will be here for the next time around, we hope. And obviously don't forget to subscribe to FISI, whose highlights video you're watching on his channel, probably. And obviously if you're watching the talk show alone on my channel or Matt, I mean, doesn't really take too much effort to click the subscribe button. So that is pretty much it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us in our very first RX talk show. Hopefully a lot more to come. But that is all from me, and I'll let Matt round this up.
But yeah, obviously, thank you guys all so much for the support on the AOR RallyCross League. It's the action so far, as I said, is brilliant, and as you would have seen by the footage, a lot of close racing at the moment. So if you have got Dirt 4, you're free on Tuesday nights, I would highly recommend getting involved, and then obviously your footage can be featured as well in the highlights. But yeah, I think that's Pepper sort of rounded up really well there on the whole. Obviously, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe to obviously Pepper, myself, or Fizzy's channel, depending on where you're at. And hopefully, we will see you guys next time after Lydden Hill.